Hi, I'm Rob Sams and welcome back to Conversations on the Couch. Today, I'm missing my good mate Gab Carlton, but I'm joined by an equally good friend in James Ellis. James and I have known each other for a little while now, both studying together and I'm very fortunate to say working together. James, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Perhaps we could start just a little bit about yourself for the people that don't know you.
Yeah, sure. Yes. My favourite topic, of course, myself.
Yes, we are limited by time, so
Yes.
no, go for it.
Yeah, so look, I'm a physiotherapist who's worked in injury management for the past 20 years. My business is Framework Group Injury Management, and I've been lucky enough to work with you with a few clients of late and study with you. We share an interest, obviously, in social psychology, and we're applying that really to what we do in our work with injured workers.
Yeah. One of the things that the feedback we get from our videos is, and that people appreciate, is how do we put some of the stuff into practice? And so, we use words and terms like social psychology, but it sounds a little bit distant and people don't really understand. So maybe you could help us. One of the things that strikes me about workers' compensation, the way that you deal with things, is around it's more humanistic. It seems to really understand people. So it might be helpful to talk through some of the things that you do around that.
Yeah, and humanising, I suppose, is the key word.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about humanising workers' compensation because the process of workers' compensation is inherently dehumanising. One of the problems we face is that, for example, when you get a ding in your car and you have to deal with an insurer, it's just about getting that car sorted. But when people are injured and they have to deal with an insurer and a doctor and a physiotherapist and their supervisor and a return to work coordinator, and the list goes on and on, there's a whole process around it and a discourse around it that dehumanises, has the potential to dehumanise people.
Okay. The word discourse, can you just help us understand what that means a little bit better in the context of workers' comp?
Actually I was chided recently by a friend of mine for using the word discourse, and she said to me, why don't you just say talking? But discourse is so much more than talking. Discourse in many ways is about all the artefacts associated. So in workers' comp, it's the letters people receive, it's the attitude towards them when they're injured. For example, when I'm at a barbecue and I tell people that I work in workers' comp, there's eyebrow raising and there's talk of malingering, and this is unhelpful discourse, which is dehumanising. So
you can only imagine how that might then feel for a person who's been injured at work and what that might do for them.
Ultimately, it tends to make people feel disempowered. And it's very hard for people to get better when they feel disempowered. So a lot of what we do is around trying to empower them and trying to give them some autonomy and some choice, because the discourse of workers' compensation, unfortunately, removes choices and funnels them into a process. And people, when they sense they're being processed, cannot function at their best and certainly can't recover as well as they should.
Which you can only imagine. I'm just thinking, in the time we've got left, maybe what's if you could say, and I don't want to say the key thing because I know there's not just one thing, but what's one of the things that you do, or one of the ways you go about things?
I think a really cool way of describing it is that it's about meeting people rather than processing people.
So meeting. So what would you do? I guess if someone's listening to us and the meeting, what might be an example?
So when somebody is injured, the processing is around having to fill out the incident form, having to get a workers' comp certificate, having to follow this very rigid process, and people get locked into that. Meeting, I think it's about sitting down with somebody who's injured and asking them questions about how they feel and what happened. But here's the thing, you have to listen. And the tendency is to race ahead and think, I need them to do this, then that, and they go to the doctor and get a certificate and get, So you need to give them space to talk, and you need to really listen.
Wow. So I guess if you're out there and you're dealing with injured workers, which I know many people do, perhaps you can learn a little from James's approach and humanising, which is about, I guess what I've heard today is less processing, more understanding, more listening, treating people. This is not rocket science, but it's so hard to do in a system that is the workers' comp system.
Absolutely.
So, thanks for sharing your story, James.
You're welcome.
There's more to learn about the way that James goes about humanising workers' comp, and love to have you back sometime soon.
That'd be great. Thank you.